Hey everyone, it's Mike Carey with The One Good Reason. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Juneteenth, a day commemorating the last of the slaves being given the information that they're actually free. It's a great feeling to have everybody honoring this day and celebrating with us, with the Black community. In my opinion, gives us evidence that everyone is in unison as far as the hope of in bettering and progressing our country. Tonight, we're going to have a special guest on with us by the name of Momma Atheist. And we're actually going to be having a discussion about reward and punishment. So we'll go ahead and bring her on now.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Thank you for showing up.
I was going to say happy Juneteenth, but did you know that nobody knew about it until Trump fucked it up? And
yeah. That's kind of a shame. Well, hopefully a lot more people will know about it. I think right now there's a bill or at least a motion that's floating around right now. They're trying to make it a federal holiday. I guess, the whole idea of there being a Black Friday, a holiday, a holiday to shop. But
I think there's already at least 30 states that celebrate it, as a state, and it's been a holiday for 150 years. So at least 150 years. I think it's been a little bit more than that, but I thought that was kind of ridiculous that he said nobody knew about it just because he didn't know about it. But it's Trump, so whatever.
Yeah. Texas was definitely, for obvious reasons, Texas was definitely making that a state holiday. I know some places they have it kind of like a partial holiday where you can like work half days or something like this. But yeah, they're trying to make it more, this is an official day,
Yeah, it really should
you can
be.
do it for Black Friday, you can do it for Juneteenth.
Right, exactly.
And if some people might not know it by Juneteenth, some people might know it by Freedom Day or Emancipation Day. It's got a couple of different names, but it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. I wanted to go ahead and start off by asking you just real quick to give us kind of a brief summary of kind of your background and kind of what you're doing as Momma Atheist. And then I wanted to jump right into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Sounds
good. I'm Amanda, by Momma Atheist on Twitter and YouTube. Atheist, obviously, but I'm a climate scientist. So I'm mostly, I talk about climate change issues and some other science issues and some religious issues on Sunday evenings. I do a show called Living Critically where I bring out a secular guest and we have a topic and we talk about it. Pretty much it.
All right. Yeah. Spot on. Yeah. Seems to be my take on it. So
there you go.
Okay. So and as in you calling yourself Momma Atheist, I take it that you are actually a mom and you actually have a child of some sort, right?
Yes. I have a child who's also an atheist himself, so hence the Momma Atheist.
Okay.
Yeah. Works pretty well.
And so then I think that's kind of where I want to start is in our discussion, starting with reward, I think is probably going to be easiest. Raising your child as a mom or as a parent, were you usually giving incentives to further lead behaviors that you wanted, or how did you go about deciding when, or if any, rewards were appropriate?
I did, a lot of the times it was little incremental things like, if you clean your room this was when he was much younger, he's 16 now. If you clean your room, you can have a certain amount of time with your DS, I guess, or the time, or your PlayStation or whatever. Or you could, make sure you brush your teeth every morning and night without having to be told. And then you can go to the park on certain days of the week, little things like that, or, not huge things, because I think it's overwhelming for especially younger kids. Mm-hmm. You give a big task and with also a bigger reward. maybe at the end of the summer, if he had been a good boy for a certain amount of time, then we would go on a trip. Like we'd always plan, like the year we went to Yosemite.
Oh, nice.
We always planned on going anyway, but it was used as a, we're going to go if you are a good boy, that kind of thing overall. But mostly it was small things to get small rewards.
Small things. Okay. So in giving the reward, why were you feeling that was something that was going to be helpful in exhibiting the behavior that you wanted, or in the conclusion that you wanted?
It was always something that he really, really wanted, especially with his games and things. It's about positive behavior, positive reinforcement for positive behavior, as opposed to the other way around. It's not like I didn't punish him as well, but trying to elicit positive things out of him and get him to do the right thing, and to be able to do the right things on his own without being told, was the end goal in that regard. So
yeah, I totally agree. Like I have a 4-year-old, and it's difficult because it's like when you're telling, like for me anyway, when I'm telling someone, or my daughter, I should say, not someone, when I'm telling my daughter, hey, I'd like you to do something, she's kind of like, well, looking at me like, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to put my socks in the hamper, or what am I going to get out of this? I could just throw them on the floor. It's easier for me to do this. And then, quickly in my mind, I'm like, well, if you put it in the hamper, you can get some ice cream, or you can, do whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm trying to be careful about setting up these rewards immediately for tasks, just kind of how you were saying, because the reward could be disproportionate to what the task is.
Yeah.
And then it also presents this feeling of, okay, so you're saying I can never have ice cream if I don't put my socks away in that scenario.
And the flip side of that as well is the expectation that every time she does the right thing, she is going to get rewarded for it. Whereas the reward in and of itself should be having a clean room and, having your clothes put away and things like that. I completely understand that as well.
And as a dad, I'm trying to, she's only 4, like I said. So,
Mm-hmm.
your child, I think, is older.
He's 16.
He's 16. So you have 4 times the experience. So, maybe you could drop some gems here. So I'm trying to figure out a way to go from her looking at me like, hey, I'm doing this, what do you got for me?
Mm-hmm.
To it being self-rewarding. And maybe I'm jumping the gun here because she's only 4, but planning on, down the road, I'm like, okay, I want to set up positive behavior, just like you said. Mm-hmm. It's objective in the sense that it's something that I would deem to be good, whereas somebody else might reward her for doing the opposite thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once she leaves my side or leaves my supervision. And
like I said, you don't want to end up with that expectation that she's only going to do things if she gets something out of it. And that's why it is a good idea to, set up those boundaries to begin with. You don't want to keep giving her ice cream or whatever for every little behavior. You have to kind of start breaking away from that. And that's really hard because it's difficult to get them to do what you want them to do without any kind of reward, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, if they don't, then there's punishment there. But at the same time, you still want them to get it done. So how do you find a balance there? It starts. What I would do is, instead of for every individual task, I would start spreading it out for him. If he did his, put his laundry away, if he brushed his teeth, certain things, make it for one thing at the end of the day, but still not a big thing. Like you can stay up an extra 20 minutes or something like that. Not necessarily something that he could hold in his hand, but a little bit of time, being able to watch a TV show that he wouldn't be able to normally, or something like that. Instead of for each and every thing that he did, it was a matter of building it up during the day. And you keep doing what I ask you to do, and you'll get this at the end of the day. And then you spread it out further to where it's, we'll go to the park on the weekend if you get everything done over the week, or start with every 3 days or whatever, and then just keep spreading it out. So it's just not every single thing they get a reward for. Yeah.
Do you think incentives and rewards diminish as you get older and as you venture into the adult world?
Yeah, most definitely, especially because it's just not the way the world works. I mean, we don't really get anything other than, like I said, your reward is a clean house. If we keep our house clean, we keep our fridge stocked, we have food and we don't starve, but we're not getting rewarded for the behavior that is really expected of us. And that's why you need to be able to teach your child that, yes, some things do deserve rewards, but at the same time, that's just not how life works.
Yeah, like, finding some bag of money or something on the road and returning it, not necessarily for a reward, but because it's self-rewarding and things of that nature. Yeah. And with the whole religious aspect, you being Momma Atheist and everything, and myself an atheist, I do come across that mindset. And this isn't to, knock any of the religious viewers, but, just in my experience, just a general blanket statement. It is a lot of reward seeking type conversation that I have as far as heaven, or even if it was just to get the love of the deity, not
I was just about to say the love of Jesus Christ is what they strive for.
Yeah. And so in the same breath, I don't know, I have some weird ideas bouncing around in my head. Like, okay, for example, you're driving 50 miles an hour through a school zone, and a police officer pulls you over. He or she is not going to be very happy with you, right? They're gonna stick you pretty good, right? They're gonna get you. And back to the crazy idea. I don't know. I was having, with all this stuff going on, in the news, and just a lot of we haven't really touched on punishment yet, but a lot of the situations that you're seeing. I'm thinking, what if, or would it be a good idea if you're driving to go to work, or you're going to the grocery store and you get pulled over, they knock on the window, you're like, okay, what the fuck? Yeah. And they say, hey, Amanda, you're our monthly winner for driving the speed limit. We're going to pay your car insurance this month. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that would be, more, really would be more of an incentive. You would want to do it more often if you thought you were actually getting something out of it than you would, trying to stay under the speed limit in order to escape getting fined or whatever. Exactly. I really think that it would limit the behavior, and less people would speed if they thought to themselves all the time, hey, if a cop is watching, they're going to write down my license plate and remember that I stayed at the speed limit. So I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, like some kind of a lottery. And then, so that was my first idea. And then I said, well, not everybody's going to want to. Government supported lotteries are. Hey, Alexa, stop. She's eavesdropping. No, but that was my first idea. And then I'm thinking, not everybody's going to want to be stopped on the way to work. It's like, yes, I was doing the right thing. I was going to show up on time, and now I'm late because you wanted to. So I was thinking, well, they could just shoot you an email and say, hey, we noticed you out there by the gas station, and, here's your little code that you can send to your insurance or whatever, something like this. And I'm thinking, okay, if you can do something like that with traffic infractions versus traffic achievements, what other types of rewards could there possibly be in our adult lives? Because again, it goes from many rewards and many incentives as a child, maybe teetering off into your teens, to you being an adult. And yes, things are self-rewarding, but should there be some type of incentive as far as not necessarily government handouts or things like this? Because people would say, well, where's that money coming from for them to pay your insurance? Maybe I haven't thought that out, but I'm just thinking, just ideas like, just something simple like that. If you can get a ticket and you're paying the money into a pot, right? All of your tickets are going into filling potholes and whatever else, right? Whatever the city is deciding to use it for. You should be able to have one person in your city win the monthly lotto for their insurance to be paid because they're good. These are the type of ideas that are coming across my mind.
Tax breaks for voting. Like if you vote in all the primaries and elections that you have, it's a responsibility really. If you do that, get certain tax breaks. That would be a good thing because we definitely need more people to actually fucking do that.
That is a great idea because wow, I never even thought about that because you have the option to vote, right? You have the right to vote and the option to vote. And a lot of the issue is a lot of people aren't taking advantage of their rights. And I was actually thinking about a little bit like this. I was saying, what if they made it mandatory?
Well, that's what in Australia they have compulsory voting, and I really think that they should do that here. It's just necessary. So many people don't vote. Although a lot of the issue here too is there's a lot of, especially here in Georgia, there are many places in urban areas that closed down, so it made it harder for certain people to vote. But if they made it compulsory, and so no matter what, they had to have these areas open, that would cut down on the racism aspect of the voting issues, and also would help, with the elections period. Because look at where we're at, because so many people just decided, fuck it, I'm not going to vote this time because I don't like either candidate. It's screwed up.
And that's a great sequitur actually to punishment, because I don't know. I mean, because that's the first I've heard of it. I was actually ignorant to compulsory voting in Australia. If you don't do it,
I have a lot of Australian friends.
Oh, say again?
I didn't know until before, so.
Oh, your Aussie buddies got you hooked up with the info. Yeah, I mean, is there some kind of a punishment or a consequence for not, voting? Like, just somebody knock on your door and say, "Hey, we didn't."
It's a fine. I don't remember how much it is, but I know that there's a fine to not voting. So, yeah.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that we're quick to go to the punishment, and the reward seems to be something for children, or more so. When you become an adult, it's like you need to grow up and get over rewards.
Yeah, true. But it worked for them with the virus because they've opened up already. My best friend is in Australia, and her kids are already back to school. They had a fine where if you were outside the house and didn't have an actual reason for it, like a doctor's visit or whatever, that it was $1,000 fine. That's steep, but it worked because they haven't had a new case in I don't even know how long, and they've been able to open the country back up. But we are getting so much worse because we didn't have any kind of real set system, and it went state by state as it was, and most of the states just said fuck it, and then even then it was up to the businesses. Like in my town, pretty much everything was like the churches closed after a while, but that was their decision. It wasn't they weren't made to. And then the fast food restaurants, you couldn't go inside of them, but they stayed open. You could go through the drive-through. It was up to the businesses what they could do. So that's without any set of rules and without any real punishment for people going out. This is where we ended up. Whereas, like I said, in Australia, they had rules, and they said, you go out, here's a huge fucking fine, and people were like, okay, I'm not risking that. It worked for them.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm thinking more of like, I don't know. I have weird thoughts sometimes. So I'm thinking.
Okay, we all do.
Like when I was in the Air Force, we I'm sure you've seen some shit like this where they have 10 days since the last incident, or 30 days since last incident. So we were doing that for because I was a volunteer for we called it A2D2. It was Airmen Against Drunk Driving. And then we would have a count for how many days we had no drunk drivers on the base, etc. And there was some kind of I can't remember what it is now. It's so long ago. There was some kind of reward or incentive for if we can get to X amount of days with 0 incidents, then everybody reach under your chairs. You're going home with a new TV or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, with the Australia's situation, that $1,000 fine. I'm thinking as a positive spin to that, it could maybe be if we can make it from, I don't know, March to Juneteenth without any new cases, we're going to give everybody some kind of a check, maybe $1,000 check, or whatever their budget or their economy can sustain, or something like that. I don't know. I feel like as an adult, I'm missing out on a lot of the rewards. As soon as you make a mistake, the punishment is there, and then it's kind of like when you're going above and beyond or you're doing the good thing. Yes, it is self-rewarding. I would agree. It's just kind of a lot of people look at that like that's what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, that's kind of Well,
I think in terms of the dichotomy there between it's being easier to reward kids as it is to reward adults, just because what other than really money can you give us that is rewarded? As much as we love ice cream and things, we can buy our own ice cream. Like
here's your massage package. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a matter of where where do we get the money or whatever needed to reward us. It's just, I think it's harder financially even and to reward adults. It just really is. So
hey, we state of Florida had a decreased amount of whatever it is. We as a community, whatever, we did this thing. Maybe we can, I don't know, lower gas prices, or everybody gets, I just think there's some kind of way that they could instill some kind of reward into our adult lives in our society.
Yeah.
But back to, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say there's an answer there. It just, and I don't know if you can hear that. There's actually fireworks going on. So people are celebrating Juneteenth here. That's pretty cool.
Excellent. Yeah, I need to get my firework game going. It's probably going to be slim pickings by the time I try to order some. Yeah, and my daughter's birthday is July 6th, so she'll get the big fireworks show, and then her birthday is a couple days after. When she was, I think last year, she was like, "Oh, this is for me."
Yeah, I can see why she would think that.
Yeah. So just with punishment. Raising your son, were you, I don't want to make any assumptions here, but were you like spanking or timeouts or taking away things for, on layaway, so to speak, and, and then returning later? Or
no,
what was your method?
I never spanked or anything like that. I aside from the fact that it just didn't feel right to me, and I wouldn't be able to do it. I did a lot of research into it as well, and everybody says, all the scientific research says that not only does it not work, but it makes things worse. You're taking away a child's bodily autonomy. You're teaching them that you're the aggressor, that they're less than. There's many reasons why hitting is just not a good idea when it comes to kids, and they can see that. It's actually, they did a study in 2013 when they asked parents, do you think spanking, works? And about 70% of parents, whether they did it or not, agreed that, sometimes an occasional spanking could work. But they redid it, I think it was like last year, and it went down to 10%. So it's, and generationally speaking, the younger generations are starting to see that, that physical punishment is not only is it not working, but it's bad. It does horrible things to your child's psyche, does horrible things to your relationship with your child, even little things like spanking, and going on to bigger things like just beating the shit out of your kid.
Mhm.
it just doesn't work. So no, I never hit. I did do timeouts. Um,
Yeah.
you know, there's more of a gray area there in terms of scientific research and whether or not it works. It's still taking away, but it's the reason that things like timeouts work more is because the biggest thing when it comes to punishing your child is about giving them a chance to understand what they did and correct their own mistakes. So when you give a child a timeout, they have the time to think about what they did and
Yeah.
think about what they need to do the next time to do it right. You're trying to teach your child to figure out for themselves what the correct path is, as opposed to just completely laying it out and saying, this is, what you do and this is why. They need to be able to understand not only what they did wrong, but how to fix it and how to do it on their own. I did take stuff away. In fact, I still do when my son is, I'll take his PlayStation remotes when he's being a real asshole, because he's, like I say, he's 16. What the fuck else am I supposed to do? Like, I could take the car. He's almost ready to drive. Like, he has his driver or learner's permit, but he doesn't have his license yet. So if he had a car, I would take that, or I'd take the keys. But there's only so much you could do with it. You ground them, keep them from, which is the teenage version of timeouts. But there's only, and he even said to me, because he's taller than me now, and he's like, what, I could leave the house, and what the fuck could you really do about it, Mom? Because I'm bigger than you now. And he's not wrong. So, I pay for your phone, so I could, yeah, right. But taking things away and the timeouts or the groundings and stuff, like I said, gives them time to correct their behavior and figure out what they're doing wrong, and what they need to do right, as opposed to just hitting or straight up punishment for the sake of punishment. So
I totally agree. I'm 100% against spanking, and that's, again, not a knock to anyone here that has spanked or currently still does. For me personally, I look at my daughter and I think back to when I was spanked, and I didn't appreciate it. It actually made me, loathsome towards my folks. I didn't understand fully what was going on. Just that if I do this again, they'll strike me. So that was kind of my upbringing, and there was a lot of spanking. There was a lot of spanking, even for things that were misconstrued. There were a couple of mistakes where they thought I did something which I didn't. I endured the spanking, and only for them to find out later, but you can't take the spanking back, right? So it's those things can happen, especially if you don't have the full picture, the full understanding of what happened. Like, for example, I don't get embarrassed. I'll put it out here. I went into my daughter's room. She was in there watching TV, and she was in there for a few minutes, and I walked back in the room, and she has this snow globe. She's holding her snow globe, and the snow globe is all the way on top of this dresser, and there's no way she can reach it. And it's the back of the dresser. So I'm thinking, how the hell did you get this snow globe? She flipped over one of her toy buckets, apparently climbed on there. It's like a Rugrats adventure. She pulls the snow globe off, doesn't knock the dresser over, doesn't fall with the snow globe and knock her teeth out or break her nose or any of the crazy things that could have happened. She successfully got the snow globe. And I stick to it. It doesn't make any sense to spank her because she could have gotten hurt.
Yeah, right.
It's like, I just can't bring myself to do it. How did you, or what advice would you have for maybe a parent watching who is maybe currently spanking and has the argument of, well, look how you turned out, maybe look how Mike turned out because he was spanked. Who is he to say that it didn't benefit him because he doesn't have any contrary evidence? I can't relive my life without spanking. Um,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would just harken back to the studies. The studies show that there's a higher percentage of people with mental illnesses that have been, that have been abused during their childhood. The people that there's higher instance of there being a rift between parent and child,
mm,
whether it be just not a good relationship or a complete break in the relationship between parent and child when you have a child that has been abused. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be people we all turn out to a certain degree, but I'm sure there are lots of things that your parents did that were wonderful that made
yeah,
you into who you were. But there's just a lot of scientific evidence that the data doesn't lie, and it says this just doesn't work, and it's not helping. In fact, it makes it worse. So
that's like that fallacy. I'll put a little spin on the fallacy. It's counting the hits and excusing the kisses.
right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're going to wind down here. But I did have a little thing I wanted to share. I don't know if you saw on the thumbnail for the video, anyone watching, there was a little picture there with the tiger on the left and the lady on the right. And it said, the lady or the tiger. And some people were saying, oh, is this a debate? Are you and Momma Atheist going to, clash? And I was like, no, it's not a debate. And I said, well, you know what? Hold that thought. Come watch the video and you'll see what it's about. But no, the thumbnail is actually a philosophical dilemma. And it's to keep it simple and short because I want to wrap up here real soon. But the idea is basically there's this king and he has a princess daughter. And he's waiting for her to marry some fancy pants person, and very, very high bar set for her.
Yep.
And she falls in love with kind of an Aladdin type, not of the same class kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a secret. So they've been, they're getting it on, but, the daddy can't know. And there's this woman on the side who's been hollering at the guy. And he's like, no, I can't because I'm seeing somebody. And she's like, who is it? And he can't tell her because they would ruin it would probably get him killed, basically. So he's like, I can't tell you. So she's not believing him. So she's trying harder. She's cooking food. She's doing all these things. He tells her, the princess, he tells her about one of these encounters. So she learns of the girl. And she gets very, very jealous and very, very upset.
Mm-hmm.
So the king, he usually has this arena. It's like a court of choice. Any criminal that goes through his court of choice, he has them choose between door number 1 and door number 2. Door number 1 has a ravenous tiger behind the door. And door number 2 has a maiden, some woman that he's going to be basically forced to marry. So if you rob somebody and you get put on the spot to pick one of these doors and you pick the maiden, then you're all good. You just get married to this lady. Mm-hmm. So the princess had selected that side woman to marry the next criminal. The king found out about her secret lover and called him to be the next criminal.
Oh.
So then the king puts the princess on the spot and says, he's not going to pick the door. You're going to pick the door.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of tension here. And the story ends with she picked one of the doors, but they don't tell you which door she actually picked. So she's in the position where I could save my love and have him marry the woman I hate. Or I could have him go to the tiger and be killed because if I can't have him, nobody can.
Yeah.
What do you, if you had to guess based on all of that context, what door she would have picked? Would she be rewarding or punishing her love?
Punishing.
Not to push it.
I honestly, I probably punishing. Am I wrong?
No, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
It,
Yeah.
the story just ends with she picks a door, but they don't tell you what she ended up picking.
What do you think?
I would say if if I had to guess, I'd probably say she'd probably have him marry the woman and then try to do something to the woman later.
I was going to say, but they're both kind of punishment anyway. So
Yeah,
either way, it's not really a reward. But yeah, that would make
exactly.
I would probably do that myself. Make sure his life was saved, but find a way around, find a little bit of a loophole in the end. So
Some of this arsenic or something. No, I'm kidding. some of this ricin or no, but yeah. I like that analogy because it's if you're in the position to decide a reward or a punishment, and you might be biased as to if this is a rewardable or a punishable action.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's kind of the big takeaway I want here is me as a parent, you as a parent, any parents watching or any parents to be, we're always constantly struggling with is this something I should be rewarding or am I biased, or is this something I should be punishing, or am I biased?
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody check out Momma Atheist on YouTube. We should have her link in the discussion area of the event. Appreciate you coming on. Did you have any last words or anything you wanted to share with us before we part ways?
There was an interesting thing in terms of punishment and how the Bible talks about, punishing your children. The whole spare the rod, spoil the child thing is actually a misnomer because the word rod, because, the way that the Bible has been rewritten over and over again throughout 2,000 plus years, it's been changed quite a bit. But originally, rod meant more like a staff of what like a shepherd would use. So it was about not hitting the child, but protecting the child from like the wolves and things, and also guiding the child like they would the sheep. So when theists come back and say, well, in the Bible it says spare the rod, spoil the child, that's actually false. In fact, it's about teaching the child what is right, as opposed to and protecting the child from themselves, as opposed to beating a child. So I thought that was interesting.
Very freaking interesting. So the misinterpretation caused countless booties to be ripened. And them feeling they have a justification through their religion.
Yeah, so they're actually wrong. But
I wonder if that's had anything to do with a lot of the spankings I endured.
It's possible. I think you'll see that a lot of religious families will stick with that whole idea because they think hitting your children is a biblical thing. They think that that's what God wants, but in fact, it is not correct. It is a misinterpretation. So
happy shall ye be who dashes their little ones against the rocks. I forget what verse it is.
I know that. I remember that. Yeah, there's a lot of fucked up in the Bible, but the spare the rod thing is, completely
spare the rod, use the rocks. Yeah.
Right.
Well, alrighty. Again, appreciate you guys coming on.
Yes, thank you.
This has been another episode of. I was just going to say, it's been another episode of Tiger Talk. We're going to be on again next Friday, June 26th. We're going to be talking about the Space Force. I'm going to bring on another military veteran, and we are going to kind of toss some ideas around and see if it's all bullshit, if there's any good to be salvaged, any diamonds in the rough. Stay tuned, and definitely do your homework, guys. Go ahead and watch Space Force on Netflix. I believe it's like 6 episodes. Go ahead and binge that shit. You should be able to do it between now and then. And then we'll go ahead and have some fun bantering antics on there. But again, Amanda, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you can come on again in the future. And definitely take some video of some of those fireworks going on out there in your area. Out here, it's pretty silent.
Yeah, I will.
All righty, take care.
Thanks, you too.